much for coming. My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I am here to make sure that we elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as President and Vice President of the United States of America. And Penn State, I know you all are going to do it, and you all are going to flip the state of Pennsylvania and decide this thing for us. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I am so incredibly excited to be here. We've got something like 17 days left until this election. How many of y'all have filled out, sent in your early ballots yet so far? That's what I'm talking about. Who here hasn't? It's okay. It's okay. We're just going to send you a little text. Have people look around, take a little note. If you brought your friend here, make sure you just follow up afterwards, okay? We're gonna fill that thing out. We're gonna take that, send that right back in. It's so important, and I'm just honored that you all have taken the time to be here this evening, because what we are on is the precipice of such a monumental moment in this country. It is genuinely, incredibly monumental. And where we're at right now is a time of great generational change. It's a generational shift of what we are experiencing. And in this slice, in that moment of transition between past and present and dark and light, past, present, and future, dark and light, we have to make sure that we recognize and understand that being in between those things is a time of tension. It's a time of discomfort, because we are not there. We're not quite in the past, but we're not quite in the future yet. We're in the in-between. We're in the fight between two roads. And there are two worlds before us right now. There are two possibilities, only two, that are going to become of this. One is a road where we do go back and worse. We're not going to do that. But that is a road where folks take our liberties for granted. That's what that road looks like. It's a road where we believe in our own exceptionalism, that we are immune from autocracy, that we are immune from the erosion of our constitutional rights and liberties, that we sit this out, that we think it's going to be okay, or worse, that it's retributional, that we sit this out. We can't do that, because the only people that we punish are the most vulnerable in this country by sitting this election out, the most vulnerable. And I don't know about you, but I'm not going to make poor families pay for the failures of our government today. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make trans kids pay for the failures of some of the policies that we have today. I'm not going to make immigrant communities pay for some of the shortcomings that we have seen. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, and I know you aren't too. Because at the end of the day, change doesn't come from one person on high. I'm here, I support Vice President Harris into becoming President Harris. I support Governor Walz. And I support them in winning this ticket. But we know that we can't buy into this notion that change in our government happens from one person, whether it's them or me or anybody else. It comes from mass movement politics. It comes from mass movements, grassroots movements of millions of people coming together and saying, no more, we're going to fight for what we demand. And that also goes to show that this election is not the end point, it is the waypoint. It is the waypoint for our rights, y'all. And that's what's so important for us here to understand, is that the other road that we can pick, the other path that we can pick, isn't just in rejecting the darkness, it turns into Candyland. That we know that that's not how governance works either. Hi. We know that that's not how it works either. We know that the other path means that we get a chance to fight. That's what this other path means. That's what electing Kamala Harris and Tim Walz means. It's our chance to fight. And I want to tell you what my story is here, how I think about this, what my approach is. Because the Democratic Party is a big tent. I'm not here to brush that under the rug. We don't all believe all of the same things. We are a coalition. We are a coalition. I have members in the Democratic House Caucus that drive me nuts. Okay? They drive me nuts. And we go out and out. Sometimes they close that door. We have a caucus meeting once a week, close the door. All these reporters hide outside because they're trying to overhear like who's arguing with who. And we have it out. There's some things, certain issues where I could not disagree with them more on. But what I do know is that we have more in common than we have with those guys. I mean, come on. And I want to tell you a little bit about what we've done. Because 2 years ago, we had a House majority. We had a Democratic House majority, and we passed major initiatives. And even with all of our diversity in our caucus, the disagreement that we have in our caucus, the differences of opinion that we have, nearly every single one of us, and we passed in the House, we passed raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. We did. Now, when we talk about the Senate, that's another story we'll get to. But I want you to know what the people's house, when Democrats are in charge, what we have done. We've passed a $15 minimum wage, and I personally am looking forward to raise that even higher. We passed common sense gun safety measures through the House. Democrats from Kansas to New York City and all across the country said this is what we can agree on. We passed record climate provisions. We passed something known as H.R. 1, getting big money and lobbyist money out of politics. This is transformational. I come to you as a very progressive Democrat. This is not a secret. I go to the House floor and I say no human being should be illegal. I go to the House floor and I say trans rights are human rights. I go to the House floor and I stand up for the dignity of Palestinians and to free our hostages. And to say we have to end endless wars abroad financed by the United States. I believe in Medicare for all. I believe in a Green New Deal. I believe in civil rights and enshrining the fights that our Black brothers and sisters did in this country. I believe in combating anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism. That's what I believe. I believe in economic rights for all people. And I know that there's often much disagreement on these issues, but what I do know is that we will never get anywhere closer to that with Donald Trump as president of the United States. We won't. I have felt deep cynicism about our governance before. I have. When I was a waitress in downtown New York City, I did not have health insurance. And I remember one day walking around the restaurant and asking everyone that I knew, hey, do you have health insurance? And almost everybody said no. A lot of times when we talk about these policies, we ignore people that fall through the cracks. And there's so many millions of Americans that do. And it's easy to feel cynical. It's easy to feel like our system is bought and paid for, because in many ways it is. But what I found to be the antidote to anxiety is action. It's action. I've been there. I've been in that time where I felt deep cynicism and despair. And what I did was that I thought maybe I would just sit this out. Maybe this just isn't worth it. Maybe this just all is a foregone conclusion. And my participation is endorsing all of this. And you know what I felt then when I adopted that mentality? I felt depressed. I felt helpless. I felt like my life was a foregone conclusion, that nobody cared about me. Not in government, not in anywhere. I felt like I could walk home alone, something could happen, and people wouldn't even know for a long time. That's how little I felt cared for. But when I decided to turn things around, when I decided that I didn't want to accept feeling that way anymore, that I was going to join an organizing community, that I was going to get in the streets, that I was going to participate in elections, but also not limit my activism to elections alone, that's when things started to change. And a lot of times people ask me, where do you get a sense of hope from in days like this? Where do you get any sort of sense of optimism? And to me, what I've always gotten that sense from is you all, is my fellow Americans. Is just the very fact that there are people willing to stand up and understand that we are going to demand the maximum of what we believe in our future, but we are also going to set and accept and make sure that we accept our responsibilities in setting the conditions that we have today, setting the roles that we have today. That's what's always been important to me. That's what's always given me hope. And so when it comes to this election, I need us to understand that our responsibility here is real. It is our responsibility. And when I say ours, I mean ours. I mean this room's, and I mean young people specifically. Because we have inherited an unfair world. We have inherited an unfair world. We have been born into record levels of income inequality that are set and only growing as time goes on. We've inherited a world where prior generations of leadership have set the table so that companies get richer and people's incomes stay the same or get even lower. We've inherited a world where we've had to grow up in schools practicing for school shootings because our leaders are too cowardly to stand up for generations to the NRA and gun manufacturing. When someone like me or anybody else stands up and demands things that, frankly, our parents and grandparents had, we had an assault weapons ban until the year 2005. Yep. We had tuition-free colleges and universities back in the 70s. Yep. We had record investments in housing, in public housing, social housing, and more generations ago. And when we stand up and say, hey, we would like some of those things that they benefited from, we're called extreme. There is nothing extreme about trying to work for a living and put food on the table. There's nothing extreme about it. And so when we go out, when we cast our ballots, I think it's so important when we talk about this because we are in that moment of transition. We have inherited an unfair world. But Penn State, I don't know about you, but I refuse to leave an unfair world. So I'm here and I'm showing up and I'm saying I don't want kids in generations to come to have to practice for a school shooting that they think will come. I will not do it. I will not leave a world where we burn oil until nothing is left on this planet. I will not leave a world where we finance endless war. And that we're constantly having to take in immigrants and refugees because of all of what is crashing down abroad.
We can't do that. We will make sure that we lead a different world, one where people can work 40 hours a week, put food on the table, afford their housing, and live a decent life. The Congressional Budget Office's assessment that actually immigrants brought in trillions of dollars in U.S. revenue and paid our taxes and you want to know? Bring it on. We're not talking about you, but this opposition, what we see with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and and all these billionaires that think they can buy our democracy with a check. I have a message for them. All of the things that they tell people is who to be afraid of. That's right. It's all about who they're afraid of. They're scared of people coming with nothing but the shirt on their back trying to start their American dream. They're scared of women who own their body and tell them no. Courageous. I don't vote for terrified leaders. I don't vote for people who are scared of every single person that's walking down the street. It is uncertain times. And when you stand up here and ask people for the privilege and honor of leading, of taking a role in leading in this country, we have to stand up courageously and demand a better future for all people. You have to stand up with the courage to say no to Wall Street and lobbyists and everyone who's trying to buy this government. You have to stand up and say no to people autocrats like Putin, by the way. You have to have the courage to know that an inclusive America is a better America for everybody. Else as scared as they are, what we need to do is say we have nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear here in moving forward into our future. We elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and we get to see another day in our democracy. Identical to one another. It's, voting isn't just like it's not like something you wear. It's not always just a personal expression. It's about setting conditions. And it's about who I want to be wrestling with in terms of the direction you have to take. And I know that these folks are honest people. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want a better future. And we need to get in the game because November 5th is just the beginning.
Yeah.
That's the beginning.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is the message for us to tell our folks who aren't sure about whether they should sit out or not, because to me, that's the real swing voter in this election. It's not about red or blue, it's about couch or blue. And when it comes to that decision of couch or boo, sitting out is not a choice to not choose. Sitting out is not an inaction. Sitting out is an active choice.
Yep.
It's an active choice. And when we think about who will suffer from that, it is not the most powerful and privileged people in this country that will suffer. It is the people whose rights are most at risk. And so to me, when I think about participating in democracy, I think about my relationships. I think about power as a scaffolding of relationships. And it's not just a relationship between up and down. It's a relationship from side to side. It's our relationships with each other. And so I vote not just for myself. I vote for my family, my neighbors, people I don't even know. And that, to me, I think, is what this moment is all about. So I want to thank you all so much. If I could ask for one thing, because I know it's Friday night, and maybe some of y'all might go to a party. Maybe someone asks you for your number, you say you have to send out your early ballot. What I just ask each and every one of you is that if you can find one person to go from couch to booth in the next 17 days, you will have done something to change this country. If each person can do that, yeah, and if you can do one, you can do two, you can do three, maybe one a day. We'll take it one step at a time. But if we can find one person to go from couch to booth, start there, and more and more and more, because we have so much work to do. Pennsylvania is going to be major.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're almost there because we need to re-elect Bob Casey to the Senate. Because in the Senate, if we can elect a Democratic Senate majority, we can waive the filibuster and cause. Democratic Senate. We have to live in a Democratic Senate, and we need to send a Democratic House.
Yes.
And y'all have three seats here in Pennsylvania. You got Susan Wild, you got Chris DeLuzio, and someone told me who they were in.
Exactly. Cartwright.
We got Matt Cartwright. You got Matt Cartwright. I got him in there. I was like, okay, let's do call this pop here. So we got Susan Wild, got Chris DeLuzio, and got Matt Cartwright on board too. So if you all have a spare weekend to hop on a bus and knock on some doors, even better. Write some postcards, send them out, even better. But I want to thank you all so much, because what I'm looking forward to is seeing that victory on November 5th so we can start our work to really move forward.